What's going on, ProGuides fam? Kangas here, and we got some big Act 2 leaks coming hot today. Looks like somebody leaked part of the patch notes for patch 3.05, so you know that we gotta take a look and keep you all updated. Now, this tweet seems to have been deleted as of the past couple of hours, but luckily we have screenshots still of what's going on, so let's hop right into it and take a look at the good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, we also got a crazy 3-day free trial that we just started yesterday on our website, ProGuides.com. When you sign up, you'll gain access to hundreds of lessons from your favorite pros, and also gain access to one free coaching session where our Radiant and Immortal level coaches will tailor a plan to help you improve and climb at maximum speed. Act 2 is just around the corner, so if you want to stay ahead of the curve, you gotta come check us out. Use the link in the description to take advantage of that 3-day free trial. Now, to kick things off, looks like the leak covered the agent changes that are coming to the servers at the launch of Act 2. Now, I'll be honest, it's a little less than I expected, and also on agents that I wasn't quite expecting either. First of all, we have Killjoy, whose turret is going to be nerfed to make the tagging slightly weaker. This means that if you run into Killjoy's turret and get hit, you won't go from running to crawling after a tag, but only from running to walking. Now, this was actually a nerf that we talked about in a past video about agent abilities that could use changes, and I have to say that this could help a lot, especially in pistol rounds where a turret can be way more annoying. Now, with this change, the damage won't be nerfed and the turret health will stay the same, but at least it won't turn you into a snail as soon as it hits you. Now, I'll be honest, as a Killjoy main, this kinda hurts my soul, but I can definitely see why Riot would tone down the turret in this way. If anything, this is the best nerf that we can ask for that doesn't drastically affect how I'll play, so I'll accept it like a champ and move on. According to our analysts, we'll have to see how it plays out, but as it stands, this is an acceptable nerf. Next up, we have RAZE getting some balancing to her boombot with a nerf to both the damage and a decrease in price. Now, if you're like me when you saw this, you'd probably be thinking, why the heck is RAZE getting another nerf? But hear me out. I think this might actually be a good thing for RAZE if you actually consider it a little longer. RAZE's boombot now does 80 max damage from 125 and 30 damage from 50. But the damage of RAZE's boombot was never really that big of a concern. Granted, it definitely was a concern if it hits you, but at this point of the game, I think we all know that the boombot is broken 9 out of 10 times when it runs into somebody. So that means that the main benefit for using the boombot to begin with is to clear angles for you and gather information, and also just to act as a distraction. Since the boombot is also getting a price reduction from 400 to 300, this could be pretty helpful for your economy, because now you'll be able to save 100 every time you use the boombot while still achieving the same results with it. So before we start bashing Riot for nerfing RAZE yet again, this could actually be an overall buff for RAZE players. The damage is still substantial to enemies, so enemies will still need to respect it, and you get a cheaper boombot to do your dirty work for you. Seems like a pretty good decision overall, but as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now that we covered the main balancing changes for specific agents, we have changes to how Brimstone, Sova, and Breach's abilities interact with breakable utility. Breach's Aftershock will now damage Killjoy Alarmbot, Nanoswarm, Lockdown, Cypher Trips, Reyna Leers, Sage Barriers, Sova Recons, and KO Knives. And the same thing pretty much goes for Brimstone and Sova's ultimates, as they have always dealt damage to Killjoy's other utility. Essentially, this means that damage utility can now deal damage to some things that originally were a pain to deal with, such as Sage Walls, Nanoswarms, and Cypher Trips. Sadly to say, that might actually be a nerf to Killjoy again, as new strategies can come into place for certain abilities to enable a site execution by virtue of just destroying her setup or breaking some crucial tripwires. And this could also be a Breach buff that could really enable him to use his Aftershock for purposes other than just damaging opponents, and maybe even could function as a Killjoy lockdown counter now, since his Aftershock goes through walls. But now that we're done with the agent changes, we got some information on competitive updates coming in Act 2. First of all, as most of you know, Immortal 1, 2, and 3 are returning to the rank distribution. This is a welcome change to many people in Immortal because it offers better goals for players to strive for, and also potentially better skill-based matchmaking. Also, the ranked grouping restrictions are now changed to accommodate for Immortals 1, 2, and 3 instead of in Diamond, which I believe means that up until Immortals 2, you can queue with up to 5 players now. I'm not sure exactly what it means, but it seems like that's what they're trying to say. Now, I'm not necessarily against this change, but I do think that having 5 queues suddenly available in this fashion up right before Radiant could prove a big issue for anyone queuing up solo or duo. Call me Negative Nancy, but I think that if they're going to make 5 queues this accessible, you might as well just make them accessible all the way up to Radiant. And on top of this, they're also adjusting the competitive ranked distribution, which they said in the past article that they're planning to make higher ranks more accessible to people. So what the gist of it is, gold and silver had too many players and higher ranks had too few. So now they're going to shift everyone slightly up to make the upper end of the ranks slightly more populated. Now, we don't have specific information on how they're going to approach this exactly, but in the next act, expect to reach a higher rank than you did last time. And of course, with the new map coming out, you also have the usual Fracture only queue mode. This will be out for 2 weeks, and then Fracture will be available for competitive modes after that point. I'm not gonna lie, this time we definitely need this mode because this new map seems to want to break all preconceptions of how maps are supposed to be made. This could introduce some absolutely crazy stuff, and we already know that a zip line is gonna go through the center of the map. I'll definitely need 2 weeks to figure out how to play this, and maybe even have a higher ranked coach give me some insight on their approach. As always, if you want a higher ranked player to give you some advice, we got our website with a free trial going on, so there's nothing to lose. But to wrap things up for the last few things, we got a slight XP bonus for anyone who purchased the Battle Pass this coming act. 3% may seem small, but over the course of lots of games, that could save you a couple hours of time. Apparently, it's not retroactive though, so upgrading early is better. But if you're on the fence about buying another Battle Pass or purchasing your first one, I heavily encourage you to check out a recent video on the Battle Pass content. It's super worth it. But if you're not feeling the porcelain skin set and the hype sprays and player cards, this change won't really affect you at all, so there's nothing to worry about. And finally, the last change will come in an updated AFK detection system. Now, interestingly enough, not to catch AFKs in your ranked games, but specifically in deathmatch and snowball fights for people who are trying to game the system for Battle Pass experience. Riot's got an eye on you, so better watch out. Anyway, that wraps up the leaked changes for upcoming patch 3.05. While this isn't as much as we'd expect on the release of the next act, there's always the possibility that more changes are still coming, and this is only a small part of it. Also, Berlin is just around the corner, so maybe a lot more resources are busy making that event a banger for everyone regardless. Either way, I'm pretty hopeful for what's coming up, and I hope you are too. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. But as always, I've been Kangas. Best of luck on the grind, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.